Did you ever feel like a ghost in your own family? Like you were the quiet, easy child who learned that the best way to get by was to just not make any waves? You weren't the celebrated golden child, and you weren't the troublemaking scapegoat. You were just invisible. And it turns out, this is a very real role that psychologists have observed in dysfunctional family structures. You might have even been praised for being so independent and low maintenance. But what everyone called a strength was actually a survival strategy you were forced to develop. You learned that your needs were a hassle, your voice was an annoyance, and your feelings should be kept on lockdown. You became a master of fading into the background of your own life. In this video, we are breaking down the 5 biggest signs that you were the invisible child in a narcissistic home. And this isn't just some random theory. We're going to look at the real psychological impact, drawing on insights from experts like Dr. Lindsay Gibson, author of Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about finally turning on a light in a dark room and seeing what's really there. And more importantly, finally seeing yourself. Section 1. The first sign: you learned to suppress all your emotions. The first and most foundational sign is that you became a master at emotional suppression. From a super young age, you learned that showing your feelings was pointless, or even worse, dangerous. Whether your emotions were met with anger, total indifference, or just awkward silence from a parent who couldn't deal, the message was loud and clear. Your feelings are not welcome here. So you learned to swallow them. Sadness, anger, fear, even extreme happiness, you filtered, minimized, or just hid everything. You were the kid who never cried, never complained, and never asked for much. You probably found comfort in things you could do alone, like reading, video games, or art. Anything that let you exist without being seen or heard. This wasn't just being shy. It was a survival skill. Dr. Lindsay Gibson's work explains this perfectly. She points out that emotionally immature parents, who are often narcissistic, just don't have the ability to tune into their child's world. To them, a child's needs feel like a criticism of their own fragile ego. So in their mind, the good child is the one who needs nothing at all. Your family didn't see you as less important. They saw you as less needy and praised you for it. But to a kid, that praise feels exactly like abandonment. Think about it. Your sibling has a crisis, and the whole family mobilizes with comfort and support. You have a similar crisis, and you get a quick, "You're strong, you'll be fine." Their pain gets a support system. Your pain gets a platitude. The lesson gets hammered in again and again. Your strength is your isolation. This forces you to start judging yourself for having feelings, and you begin to hide them even from yourself. You become the adult who says, "I'm fine," while crumbling inside, because you truly believe you don't have the right to feel any other way. Section 2. The second sign: you feel totally insignificant. This leads directly to sign number 2, a deep, chronic feeling of low self-worth. When you grow up without anyone really seeing or validating you, you internalize the belief that you are, basically, insignificant. This isn't the same as the scapegoat, who feels bad, or the golden child, who feels pressure to be perfect. The wound of the invisible child is the belief that you are nothing. It's a quiet, constant ache that makes you question your right to even exist. This feeling is born from looking for yourself in your parents' reactions and finding nothing there. Attachment theory explains that we first learn our own value from our caregiver's face. When they look at us with joy, we learn we are cherished. But when an invisible child looked for that reflection in a narcissistic or emotionally immature parent, they saw a blank stare, irritation, or just nothing. It's like looking in a mirror and seeing no one. As an adult, this shows up as a gut feeling that you just don't matter. You might have a brilliant idea in a meeting, but stay silent because you're convinced no one wants to hear it. You might achieve something huge at work, but immediately dismiss it as a fluke, unable to feel proud. You constantly try to prove your worth by overworking or overgiving, but it's never enough. Research has consistently shown that emotional neglect in childhood is a massive risk factor for developing anxiety and low self-esteem in adulthood. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you feel invisible, you act invisible. You don't speak up, you don't ask for what you want, and you don't celebrate your wins. You walk through the world like you're an inconvenience, and so people treat you like one. They don't see you because you've spent a lifetime teaching them not to. Section 3. The third sign. You are a master people pleaser with no boundaries. The third sign you were the invisible child is that you've become an adult who is an absolute people pleaser and finds it almost impossible to set boundaries. As a kid, your survival depended on being easy. You learned that the only way to get even a tiny bit of positive attention, or at least avoid negative attention, was to be agreeable and focused on everyone else's needs. This was a brilliant strategy for a kid, but it's a disaster in adulthood. You become a chameleon, constantly changing to match the expectations of whoever you're with. At work, you're the person who always says yes to more projects, staying late just to avoid conflict. This isn't just being nice. It's a compulsive need to manage everyone else's feelings to make sure you stay safe and feel validated. You've been wearing a social mask for so long, you may have forgotten who you even are underneath. This makes setting boundaries feel completely terrifying. Saying no can trigger massive guilt and fear. Because when you were a child, trying to set a boundary might have resulted in anger or getting the silent treatment. So you say yes when you mean no. You lend money you don't have. You agree to plans you're too tired for. And every time you do, you reinforce that childhood lesson. Your needs don't matter as much as everyone else's. In relationships, this is especially destructive. You might end up with partners who consistently overlook your needs because you never learned how to voice them in the first place. You might have unconsciously chosen them because their emotional unavailability felt familiar, letting you keep your real self hidden. To break this cycle, you have to do the terrifying work of choosing yourself, risking disapproval to finally be authentic. Section 4. The fourth sign. You have unexplained anxiety, anger, or numbness. Sign number 4 is a strange one. You live with a constant, low-level hum of unexplained anxiety and anger, mixed with periods where you feel totally numb or disconnected from your own life. You might feel a sense of dread for no reason, or a simmering rage toward people that you can't justify, especially since you were the easy one who had a good childhood, right? So where does this come from? One powerful way to understand this is through psychologist Carl Jung's concept of the shadow. Think of the shadow as a container in your mind that holds all the parts of you that you were forced to repress or deny. For the invisible child, that container is overflowing. It holds all the anger you couldn't express, all the tears you couldn't cry, and all the no's you were never allowed to say. Those repressed feelings don't just vanish. They build up until they start leaking out sideways. That random anxiety? It's often the terror of your inner child, who is still scared of being abandoned for having needs. That simmering rage, it's the righteous anger of a part of you that was denied its right to exist. Sometimes, after years of this, your brain just gets overwhelmed and flips a switch into numbness. You might feel like you're watching your life from a distance instead of actually living it. This is a defense mechanism. Your sense of feeling unreal is the feeling of a soul that has been starved of expression. The internal conflict is exhausting. You feel anxious and angry, but believe you have no right to. Or you feel numb, but desperately crave connection. Section 5. The fifth sign. You have a deep fear of real intimacy. The fifth and final sign is a profound difficulty with forming healthy, intimate relationships. Trust does not come easily to you. You learned from your very first relationships that your true self, the one with needs and feelings, is a burden. This creates a core wound that sabotages your attempts at real connection. This can show up in a few ways. You might be fiercely independent and avoid relationships altogether to protect yourself from the pain of being rejected. You build a fortress around yourself, figuring that if you never need anyone, no one can hurt you by not showing up. Or you get into relationships, but you always hold a crucial part of yourself back. You present the easy, people-pleasing version of yourself that you perfected as a child. You're a great partner, attentive and low drama, but you aren't fully there. Your partner is in a relationship with your mask, not with you, because you're terrified that if they saw the real you, they would leave. This is a classic avoidant attachment style. Because of this, small things, like an unreturned text or a change in plans, can send you spiraling, throwing you right back to that childhood feeling of being worthless and invisible. Tragically, this can create a cycle where you either choose emotionally unavailable partners because it feels familiar, or you accidentally teach a good partner to ignore your needs because you've become an expert at hiding them. Healing this wound means taking the terrifying leap of letting someone see the real you. If you recognized yourself in these 5 signs, just take a breath. You are not imagining it. Your pain is real, and your experience is valid. Recognizing yourself as the invisible child is the first, most powerful step toward reclaiming your life. For years, you may have told yourself your childhood wasn't that bad. But emotional neglect isn't an absence of trauma. It's a trauma of absence. It's the deep ache of everything you didn't get. The journey forward is about learning to give yourself everything you were denied. It means reconnecting with your inner child who is still waiting to be heard. It means practicing the radical act of identifying a need and daring to speak it out loud. It means understanding that your anger isn't a flaw. It's the fuel you need to finally fight for your right to exist. You were never broken. You were just never fully seen. And the most important person who needs to see you now is you. The journey isn't about changing who you are. It's about finally giving yourself permission to be who you've always been. If this video resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content on healing and self-understanding. And I strongly encourage you to share your experience in the comments below. Reading each other's stories is a powerful reminder that you are not, and have never been, alone. Your voice matters. It's time to start using it.